Hello and welcome to Beekeeping with Bob. This should be episode 18 if you count my starting with beekeeping series, but this is actually the first episode of the year 2019. I welcome you to join me in my continuing journey in the world of beekeeping. This recording you'll see here is made February 20th of 2019. It'll be me and a beginning beekeeper that's also a friend of mine cleaning out this hive you see right now, which is a 6-frame hive that did not survive the winter. After this, I'll be sorry if you hear that blinging on my computer. I'm recording this at home and, well, pop-ups will come up. So, to rephrase, you'll see us, I'd better say, clean out a 6-frame hive that did not survive the winter. I have another 6-frame hive that did survive the winter, and I'll be transferring that into a 2-story high Zander hive. And after cleaning out this 6-frame here that's a dead out, I'll be cleaning out the 2 stacks high Zander hive that had bees, but those bees didn't survive winter either. And out of the 5 colonies I had, those were my only 2 dead hives without treating. So I don't know if that's good, bad, we'll have to see. In spite of what you see on the video, I'm not going to be commenting on it constantly. I'm trying to give you a view on what I've done so far, and I'll talk about that over this recording. This episode will be 1 hour long, more or less, I'm guessing. And while I'm talking about what I'll be doing for coming year, I'm actually in real life in the recording explaining some stuff through the beginning beekeeper Eve that's joining me. I'm planning on having him around a lot more. I'm not sure if I'll record lots more because as you may know, this is well into May already when I'm recording the actual voiceover for this video. And well, knowing the video recording was made on the 20th of February, yeah, I'm busy. Life's happening. I should have recorded this sooner, so apologies for that, but it is what it is. So here I've explained Eve about propolis, spur comb, and that our first job is to clean out this 6-frame hive. He already knows I have 2 dead hives, and that I'm going to transfer a 6-frame hive into a 2-deep Zander combination. I'm also going to explain him what my goals are for this year, but I'll be telling you that as well, so I'll come back to that later. Right here I'm showing this frame to the camera because it has a little bit of fungus on it. Not much. I think the bees would be able to handle it if I reuse it, and I'm not sure if I'm reusing that exact frame. Might be, but whatever. I'm just scraping everything off that is not needed if I reuse that frame. Everything I'm scraping off goes into a plastic container that you can see on screen. So yeah. Let's ignore the video for a moment and go into what I've done so far this year. First off, I have taken 2 different courses, beekeeping courses, close to my home. One's about 25-minute drive, and the other's 15-minute drive out. One was on Saturday afternoons. That course is still going. It's both theory and hands-on beekeeping. the course I had on Sunday mornings was a more theoretic based lecture type of course, and that's the course my beekeeping friend also took. The hive tool he's using is a self-made thing. Don't ask me what he made it from. He's the handy guy. I think he's going to make his own hives and whatnot. He's a lot handier than I am. But he doesn't know a lot about bees yet, so he was looking to team up. And since working with two people on a hive is more agreeable for some actions you want to do, or just talk about what you see and talk things over, it's easier if you're with two pair of brains and two sets of eyes to see everything. So what I'm pointing at there is a little bit of nectar that's left, but that could have been left because of the cold. I'm actually thinking this hive here died because of starvation. It's the hive that I trapped out of a wall. If you remember that on the Starting with Beekeeping episodes, I think it's called a Trap Out 1. So I don't think I actually fed this hive anything apart from what they brought in. So I don't think I even checked the stores before they went into winter. They definitely did not have enough. There were bees enough in it. You could see that on the amount of burr comb in the beginning of the video that was built up on top of the frames. I don't think it's the amount of bees that killed this hive. Maybe I should have transferred this hive into a 2 deep Zander before going into winter, or at least in 1 deep. And started feeding. But I don't really want to feed my bees. I just want them to survive on their own, and then any excess honey that they make, that will be my profit, so to speak. So here you can see several bees still on the frame, heads inside the comb, trying to eat what is not there, obviously. On the bottom of the hive, near the entrance, you can see a lot of dead bees, so whatever was alive tried to take everything outside. Is it Varroa that killed this hive? Could be, I don't know, who's gonna say? So yeah, while I'm cleaning up this hive here, I'll be going over my 3 hives that survived winter, starting with the Simplex Nucleus from 2018. The Simplex Nucleus is the first hive I got. I started with that hive. It was a Buckfast breed, if you can call that a breed. I think I made 2 splits out of that hive last year. Only one actually worked. That's the one I introduced the Black Queen in. That is the hive that's also on my apiary number 1. So for this year, the Simplex Nucleus that is actually in I think it was in a 3 deep Zander configuration. Yeah, it was. And overwintered only in the top box. The 2 boxes underneath the brood box, or the box with brood, because basically they're all brood boxes. But all bees were in the top of that combination of 3 deeps. So they survived. The 2 boxes underneath were empty, apart from 1 or 2 frames that were drawn out. And I think I opened up the top lid once in February, mid-February, maybe a week before I make this video you're watching, only to put on some more sugar dough, because I wanted to feed them some more, just in case uh, they didn't have enough stores. There's a window on that hive, and I think I opened it up a couple of times and didn't see anything in the frames. I didn't see bees on the frames. So I thought, well, if they're not on this side and I can't see the bees and there's no stores here, that means they're on the other side and they're on the stores if they still have some. So I better give them something, because February here in Belgium, yeah, that could mean that the season is starting, and the day I open up the dead hives and the 6-frame nuke to transfer into a 2-deep Zander was actually a beautiful day, a stunning day, and it had been very nice weather the week before and the week after, but then it changed and got cold again with frosty nights. So if you don't have the right uh, adapted local bees, they might just start rearing the brood when the first good couple of days come in, then get to produce larva brood and get going for summer. And then when March hits with the cold weather, because of the large brood they have to shrink back for the frosty nights. They lose a lot of brood, and that might set your colony back. So here in Belgium, it's, well, quite important that your bees don't explode too much as soon as the beekeeping season starts. You've noticed that the pictures jumped to the 2-deep Zander formation here. This is also a dead hive. I made the same conclusion that it's lack of stores. I did feed this hive last year, but as I remember, they didn't take the sugar syrup I put on maybe August. Yeah, and it actually had some mold in it, and I had to toss it out, and I don't think I fed them after that. So what I'm doing here before I'm actually cleaning out the hive is fitting a queen roster on top of it that's from another type of hive, just to see if that would fit, and it didn't. So as an alternative, to prevent them from building the top lid with propellization onto the hive, I'm going to put a sheet of plastic on top of that, and I have to cut it in the correct size. So that's what I'm doing now, while Eve is looking inside the hive and checking out what is what. If you look at the top 2 frames with the red, red, well, I don't know what you spacers I'll call them. Well, you can't see much on those 2 frames right now, especially not with his head against the camera. But hey, we're opening up that hive from the side because they're actually, yeah, they're bound together with a clip system. So Eve is opening that up to be able to lift off the box. What I was going to say is the 3rd frame that has actually got yellow spaces. You can see 2 pieces of string attached there. Those pieces of string, I think, are from cutting out comb somewhere and putting it in a frame. It's not actually that I did a cutout or anything. Although this is trap out number 2, but trap out number 2 was in a polystyrene box, 6-frame polystyrene box. And I just decided to give them space, opposed to my trap out 1 that I overwintered in the 6-frame polystyrene hive. They didn't make it, nor this hive. So I'm thinking, if you do a trap out feed, because even though they bring in stores, apparently it's not enough for them to overwinter. So what I did here now is take off the two boxes to see how many bees were on the bottom board. We're looking to see if the queen's in there, and I'm explaining what we are looking for to Eve. And then I think I'm gonna ask him to clean out the bottom board when I start with the bottom box, and you can see that I'm wearing a GoPro to shoot some video from that as well, and the video will pop back and forth from what that camera shot and what this overhead camera is shooting. See, I think I'm gonna have to mute the sound from that as well. I'll do this now. Yeah, I'm explaining how the bottom board works. With a board you can slide underneath a roster to check on varroa mites that drop naturally. So yeah, we're going to clean up this in the video. I'll continue where I left off with the simplex nucleus from last year. So I told you already that was on 3 deeps. 2 of them were empty, apart from some drawn comb. And I've opened up it a week before the video was made to feed them. I think I checked them a week after the video was shot while it was still good weather, and they actually were flying very well. I did not check if they were eating the sugar dough that I put on top, and I've checked them regularly, just looking at them if they were flying or not, to see if the activity was good, and I was not concerned with simplex nuke from 2018 Buckfast. I opened the hive up on April 16th. I reduced the size down to 2 Zander deeps. I actually took out 2 frames of brood to make a split out of. I think one had a lot of pollen on it. I added 2 empty frames in the 6 frame box, and alright, it's 2 frames of brood. One had pollen. I think it had nectar. Not sure. Yeah, it was 2 brood, 2 empties I put in. It didn't have nectar, so I put in sugar dough, and then I put in a filler board just to fill up the space that was left in the 6 frame split I made. So that's a new hive I made. I moved that to the apiary you're seeing on the video right now, and as of today, 2nd of May, I actually still saw bees coming and going, even though it was, well, drizzling a bit. Can't say it was raining. So, checking the simplex nuke, I opened it up on 3 deeps. The top box had a filler board, then some drawn out comb with nectar in it, then a half a drawn out comb with nectar in it, and then it had 3 frames that are actually built with wanky comb, and they are, if you try to lift one, you move all 3 frames. So I didn't lift them out of the box, and I just said, well, leave them be. Hopefully they'll build down to the box underneath and fill up everything with honey on top, if it's a good year, and then we'll be able to harvest those frames, one with the entire box. So that's not happened yet. I'm still hoping I could do that. We'll see. As of today, I'm not hopeful For some reason, putting a box underneath the brood box doesn't draw the bees down as much as you would put a honey box super on top. I've heard a lot of beekeepers that had boxes on top of their hives, and they got filled up in a matter of days. I did not super my hives, I under supered my hives, if you will. Well, I actually overwintered them like that, and the bees don't seem to be inclined to go and build underneath the brood nest they have. So I was a bit worried the amount of nectar coming in other beekeepers' hives would force the queen down and make her stop laying, so maybe they'd swarm on me. Hasn't happened yet, as far as I'm aware, but the weather's not good enough now to open up the hives and check, which is a bad thing actually, since I haven't been in this hive since 16th of April, and well, the bad weather is actually preventing me from checking if they have swarm cells. I'm kind of hoping they have, but I'm also hoping I'm going to open up the hive in time to make use of those swarm cells to make more splits. I did make 2 splits, one out of this hive and one out of the one we'll talk about a little bit later. But I've overwintered 3 hives successfully, and I want to expand to 15 hives. And I'm not going to do that if they swarm on me and I lose the swarms. Hoping to get some swarms in as well. I'm not hoping to split my 3 hives into 15 before winter. That'd be crazy. Well, who knows, but I'll see what happens next time I open this hive. I can say there was activity the week after I shot this video, and there has been activity up till now. So I was talking about what I found in the top box. There was a drawn out comb, a food frame, half a fruit frame, 3 frames that were stuck together. I think that was food and brood. And then I can't be sure of that because I didn't take them out. And then there were 3 frames of brood and a frame of pollen. I took 2 frames of brood, one of which certainly had eggs and young larvae to make the split from. And that was the entire top box. I think 10 frames, drawn out comb, 2 food, 3 stuck together, 6. Then 3 frames of brood and 1 of pollen's 10. Yeah. Then I put that box aside and looked at the second one. The second one had 2 empty frames, half frame of drawn out comb, and that was a half strip of foundation that they actually built, but they didn't build underneath that, so for some reason they didn't need it, that space. Then the 4th frame was entirely drawn out, but it had nothing on it, a little bit of fungus, I think, if I recall correctly. Next frame also completely drawn out. Then the frame next to that was a strip that was drawn out, half a strip that was drawn out, and underneath it was all empty space. The frame next to that, I think, was an empty frame with nothing in it, and that was completely drawn out. And then I had 3 empty frames, one of which had a strip of foundation in it. So out of the 10 frames, with or without foundation that were in there, they built 3 of them with a comb entirely. There was nothing in it though. And 2 of them, only half was built up, just the strips. So even though I love bees doing everything themselves, it seems they prefer building out foundation, or they start building out foundation because they recognize it and they think, hey, apparently we've started building comb here, we should continue. But they don't build out anything after that, except if they need it. So, yeah, I'm not sure how to continue my beekeeping practices with boxes underneath. The Warray system doesn't seem to be working very well in the large boxes I have with the Zander frames. We'll see what it brings in the future. I'm not going to remove the bottom box from underneath the brood box, but I might add a super next year. I'm not going to add a super now. I don't see why. The harvest period here, I'm not traveling with my bees, and I think it'll be too late in the season to actually still put something on top to force them for creating honey. I won't mention what was in the bottom box because I removed that entirely, and I think it was mostly empty frames anyway. So yeah, I transferred those 3 boxes into 2. The top box, where I took 2 frames of brood from, got empty frames. I don't even think there was foundation in them instead. And then in the bottom box, or what is now the bottom box, I've put an empty frame, then the frame that was half drawn out, 2 fully drawn out frames, then 2 empty frames, then another half built frame, fill frame that was built with nothing in it, and then 2 empty frames. That's the configuration I put the hive together. So that's the simplex nucleus so far. As you can see in the video, we're still preparing the boxes to put the swarm in. This year is color green, hence the green spaces. You can see the half strips that I use, and I've alternated half a strip with an empty frame, then half a strip and an empty frame. And the spaces make sure the bees have enough space to move in between the frames. The frame I'm holding now is going to get a different color, so that I'd know in the future that that was a frame that was in my hive last year, and that's why it has red spaces. It's also drawn out comb, and that is to hopefully draw the queen downward and give her some space to lay there. So the bottom box that the 6 frame nucleus will get is entire empty, an empty box. The green frames are alternated with totally empty, not a wax strip, nothing, and then half a strip of foundation, and yeah, that'll be the bottom box. The video will continue while I talk about the second hive that I have at home, and that actually is my simplex split. I overwintered that on 2 frames. That split was made from a different size frame. The entire box of 6 frames I got from the beekeeper that gave me the first simplex nucleus hive. I looked at the 6 simplex frames, and they fit the profile to make a split out of. I think it is in one of my previous episodes. So they did not draw out an emergency cell to rear their own queen, and I introduced a black queen in this hive. That was successful. That's also part of my Starting with Beekeeping series, where you can see me introduce that queen, where one day I just put her in a cage and hang her in, then the second day I come back, check it, and I think she was accepted, so I release her. I can tell you, she's still in there. That queen was marked, and I found that marked queen inside that hive this year. I can tell you, the same day I put on the sugar dough on the simplex nucleus, there was action going on that hive, where on the simplex nucleus there wasn't any flying of bees in front of the hive. There was on this one. Probably because they had only 2 boxes. They had to climb down 1 box to get out, and the simplex nuke had to climb down 2 boxes to get out, and maybe that was too cold for them. So that's actually why I opened up the hive, to see if there were still alive bees in there. I did not feed this hive because they were flying, and I've monitored and kept seeing flying bees, so I was happy until 16th of April, was it that I said? It was on the same day that I opened up this hive as well, this split. It was on 2 bodies, hive bodies, and I left it on 2 hive bodies. I did remove 2 frames to make a split from this hive as well. It was the split was comprised of 2 frames of drawn comb, 2 empty frames, and a frame of brood and a frame of food. The brood frame with bees and the food frame with bees was transferred into the 6-frame nucleus, and the brood frame did have eggs and larvae. The split still alive. I saw it today just before this recording, and I'm happy to report, even though it was drizzling, there was activity on this hive. So going back to the mother hive that the split came from, the simplex split, I call this hive. What did I find? There were 2 filler boards in there, the top box. Then there was a pollen frame. Then there was a frame with brood, pollen and nectar. Then I had the frame with the queen on it. Then I had 2 brood frames, a frame with nectar in it, then another frame with the brood, and then an empty frame. Underneath that was 2 empty frames, 5 drawn out frames with nothing in it, an empty frame and a drawn out frame. That's 10. Yeah, that's 10 frames in the bottom box. So 2 empty, 5 drawn out frames, 7. I'm 1 frame short, aren't I? Then an empty one and another drawn out. What was in there? I'm gonna have to check my notes here. Oh yeah, the first frame in the bottom box was a frame with nectar in it. Probably the bees that were flying dropped it off there in that frame to be stored up above the brood nest later in the evening. So I reconfigured the hive. I removed the 2 filler boards and moved everything to the left, leaving out the 2 frames, one with brood and one with stores for the split. And put it back together with the pollen frame on the left, then a drawn out frame, then the frame with and nectar and pollen and brood, then the frame with the queen on it and brood, of course, then a frame of brood, then I put in an empty frame, then I put in a frame with nectar, then I put in an empty frame, and I put the 2 filler boards next to that. Yeah. I changed the location of the filler boards because the broods seem to be on one side of the hive, and I wanted to know if they would move to the other side or not, but I'm not sure if they will. The bottom box I changed into an empty frame, a drawn out frame, an empty frame, 2 drawn out frames, an empty frame, 2 drawn out frames, an empty frame, and a filler board. So there's 3 filler boards in that hive combination, 2 in the top box and 1 in the bottom box. I've checked the window today, and I must say I want to get rid of all simplex frames that are still in this hive. There are 3 simplex frames still in there. Simplex is a bit smaller than Zander, and the simplex frames are attached to the top bar of a Zander frame. You can see that in my starting with beekeeping episodes, one of the earliest episodes, where I get my simplex nuke and actually hang it into the hive. And there's still 3 frames in there, so I'm hoping on my next inspection to cut those frames loose from the top bars and actually put them into a simplex hive to start with. Ideally, the split I made, which also exists from simplex sized frames, is ready to be transferred into a full deep simplex size, so that 6 frame nucleus, because I only have 1 from simplex size, gets freed up to move those 3 frames into. So yes, I'm hoping to do another split from this hive. If this hive has got queen cells, then I'm going to have to split them, and maybe I'm going to have to put the simplex frames all into one box, and then I'm hoping there's not more than 2 to 3 queen cells on the frames combined, and there's a small chance that's not gonna happen. If it's not to worry. I have a box with the divider boards, and I can leave the top bars on the simplex frames and put them in. Well, I think I still have 9 frames that I can use. 3, 4, 3. I think it is. Or is it? Well, I should check the box. I don't have it with me right now. But plans are to split again. Right, going back to the video. Still preparing the top box, as you can see. Counting the frames that we have in the box. Counting the frames that are in the hive that has to be transferred. I need 4 in the box. And I'll put what I'm thinking right now, 6 from that nucleus into the box. Little did I know that instead of building out that entire box to overwinter, the 6 frame polystyrene nucleus survived on only 4 frames. I hope you can see that later on in the video, and I hope that I'm far enough in my story to stop my comment and continue with the video as we move along there, so you can follow what's happening. So the 6 frame nucleus that I'm going to transfer is the little swarm I had. I think it came from a queen rearer that did not pay attention to his hives, or his queen rearing project at least, and for some reason that queen with a handful of bees decided to swarm on him. I am quite a drive out, so I had no idea who was beekeeping in that area. I took his bees in, gave him some of my bees that I took from a swarm that for some reason stopped laying and lost their queen. Um, I was actually not that optimistic about the survival rate for that hive, but they survived. They're here, and I'm going to transfer them into this box that I've prepared right now. The hive tools I used to clean up everything go inside the plastic box, and I'm using totally new equipment just in case my inspection and conclusion that it was shortage of food that caused the death. Yeah, I wanted to be on the safe side. If it was diseased, then I don't want to be messing around with my diseased hive tools or infected hive tools on the alive bees. So there's a little bit of cleanup going on right now, and then we'll hang the nucleus into the top box of the combination I have right there. I just put on the sugar dough in case I need to feed them. I've had it handy. A rock to put on top of the hive to prevent the lid from flying off. And the smoker. Yeah, we're preparing to open up a hive that actually has bees in it. What can I say about the 6-frame nucleus? Well, when I fed the simplex nucleus in my apiary 1, this 6-frame hive on my apiary 2 also was flying. I saw them bring in pollen, an orange pollen. I think it was crocus. I don't know if you say that right, crocus flower. That was on there. And I actually moved those bees the 20th of February, which is the date of the recording, into that hive. So here I'm explaining what I'm going to do, and we'll get started in a bit. I can tell you that a week after this operation, the bees still fly out. After I did the inspection of my apiary 1, I also went to apiary number 2 with this frame, with this hive set up to put up the 2 splits, because I didn't want the bees to fly back to apiary 1 that I put into the 6-frame splits. And I got a warning. I didn't get stung, but one of the bees from this hive that I'm going to transfer in a bit actually banged me on the head, telling me, "Hey, what you doing here?" Also, when I went to check a week later, I had 2 or 3 bees buzz around my head, and one banged on me as well. So it's early in the season. They shouldn't be moody at all, and they were. So I'm thinking this is going to be a difficult hive to work with during the year. Right, this is the first frame I remove from the 6-frame nucleus. As you can see, it was totally empty apart from the wires that go through the comb normally. This is the 2nd frame I take out from there. And oh no, I'm lying. Those are 2 frames I had handy, because there's now 6 in it, right? Yeah. Yeah, they are not from the 6-frame nucleus. The 6-frame nucleus is open. This is one of the frames that came out of that. You can see about the amount of bees that were on it and flying. That the 6-frame nucleus isn't packed with bees. Here's One side has a good amount of bees in it. I'm sorry for my arm in the way, but can't help it. So there's no spaces on that frame, and I slide them over. I showed Eve that there was brood on that frame. You can see that same here. Good amount of bees where the brood is, and that's what you want, them to keep the brood warm. I'm having a quick look for the queen, but I don't think I spotted her. And since the sun is blocked by my body, the picture here is not of the best quality either. If you do spot the queen, if you freeze frame and blow it up or anything, just let me know. I haven't done it myself yet, since I'm well past production date here. 20th February is the recording, 2nd of May is this voiceover, so forgive me for not blowing up every frame. Just look up if the queen's on there or no. Yeah, what you see is the actual state the bees overwintered in. So they didn't draw out everything to overwinter in, and I did not feed this hive at all. So a small clump of bees actually survived the winter. I think that is beautiful how nature works. They tell you you want a strong hive and you need to feed a lot of sugar. But this was a very small amount of bees, and they were already raising young to explode this hive later on in the season, I was hoping. So I transferred the full frames that had bees, and I decided to put the feed on, just because there wasn't any nectar in what I saw. It was mainly brood. There was some nectar, but I think that was whatever they could find in the area. And if they wanted to raise babies and worker bees, they would need more. I did not have pollen patties, and I don't want to give them soy or anything. So what I'm doing here is making a hole into the plastic sheet where the feeder hole is in my cover board, and I'm opening it so the bees can actually get to it. Then I'm excuse me, and then I'm going to put the sugar on top of it. This was basically what I did in this video. As I've said, I'm willing to expand my apiary, but not by buying bees, packages or nukes or whatever. I want to breed from my bees. I also want to catch swarms, because swarms to me mean healthy bees that are adapted to my local area. So, came out of Windwood 3, already made 2 splits, brings us up to 5. Hoping to do another 2 splits, maybe 3, depending on the state of the hive I just made. Would bring me up to 7 or 8, which is just past or on the half mark of where I want to go. I'm hoping all hives I make this year will survive until next year, so I can actually put some hives in production for honey and use the others for splits. And then the year after that, I'll split from the honey producers from next year, leave the ones alone that made splits, and split the ones that are actually growing from splits from past year. Or, well, if you can follow. So that was it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. end this video with a shot you've been watching for a while now. Bees that are looking for the entrance to their home that mysteriously disappeared. Some are going into the hive, as you can see. Others are still orientating around where they think their hive should be. And I hope we'll get to see some Nazanov action telling the bees that they need to come in here. Meanwhile, Eve and I will clean up, put everything in the car while the video is still running. And you get to enjoy what the bees do in their confusion. I'll give you a quick rundown of how I came out of winter. That's with 3 hives. Coming from 5, I lost 2. One was in the white hive you see here. I cleaned that out in this episode. I also cleaned out a 6-frame nucleus that was dead. Both causes of death, if you ask me, and do remember I'm a beginning beekeeper. What do I know? Was lack of food. Could have been varroa, I have no idea. Anyway, there was one 6-frame nucleus that survived, which upon opening only had 4 frames. So very small amount of bees that I transferred into the box you see now. Those are the bees that are looking for their new home, keeping warm some brood. They got a sugar dough patty on top, and since the recording was made 20th of February and now we're the 2nd of May, I can tell you these bees survived. I'm looking to do an inspection real soon. I hope to make another video of these hives while I'm doing inspections and or splits, depending on what I find. It's now, well, not the best of weather. It's cold, raining, so not a lot of activity on my hives, although it's drizzling, and there is activity on both splits I made that are now, well, you can't see it in video, but in front of those 2 other hives that are not populated are now 2 6-framers, and at least one is going into one of the hives that's empty right now. So yeah, that's going to be for future episodes. This was it. Hope you enjoyed my talk. Hope I made some sense and didn't jump around from topic to topic too much. I did not write out a script as one should do if you do a voiceover like this. This was all from the top of my head and based on the little notes I had handy on me while making this recording. I just got frustrated with myself that I took this long to actually make the voiceover for this video. I always think I'm going to do better next time, and then I tend to not keep that promise, so I'm not going to make that promise. I'm hoping to produce more, and I'm hoping to get better quality, but as I stated in the beginning of the video, life is happening, and the actual beekeeping plus taking the 2 courses is taking a lot of my energy away, and then when I get home I rather enjoy my family than lock myself up and make recordings like I'm doing now on a free day. I hope you understand. I hope you don't mind, and if you do, well, sorry. For the next couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes, I'll let this video run in total silence, and I hope I'll catch you next time. This was Björn from Bob's Bees, and I hope I see you again next time for the next episode, where I hope to do more beekeeping together with you and Eve. Goodbye. Hey, if you're still watching, here we come back. Finished cleaning up. I'm coming to collect the camera. I'm the one with the beard, pointing towards the hive, and Eve is the beginning beekeeper that helped me out today. Forgot to thank him. If he sees this, I hope he watches it till the end. Much appreciated for the help and everything you do. I hope I am as helpful to you as you are to me. Can't thank you enough. And to every other video watcher, thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want. Hit the bell if you want to get notified, because I don't put out that many videos, and it's probably more useful to get that notification in instead of just coming back and getting frustrated that no videos are up yet. So thank you again for watching and sticking with me, and see you next time. Bob out. Oh, I'm closing off the entrance. Since this is a weak hive, you need to reduce the entrance so they can actually defend the hive.